when getting into small multi-unit properties, you got to keep in mind some very important things like yard, snow, and waste, right? If you're moving from like single family to like duplexes, fourplexes, whatever, you got to keep in mind you got to have yard, snow, and waste, right? Sometimes on maybe a duplex or a 4-unit, depending how it's set up, you could probably still, pin it on the tenants to do the yard and the snow and the waste, or right. It just depends how the property's set up, right? And if each one has like an individual driveway and an individual yard, kind of, right? If it's like a side-by-side duplex or 4-unit or whatever, right? I guess you could go all the way up to like a 10-unit if they're all next to each other, or however many units if they're all next, like townhouse setups. But just kind of remember that if you're kind of getting like your duplex, you just got to remember that if you can't get your tenants to do it, you got to pay for that, right? You're going to have to pay for the yard, the grass to get cut, everything on the outside, the snow, and then sometimes even waste, right? So that just depends on the city. Some cities, they have like a unit maximum. So let's say that, like, I don't know, and I can't think of a city, in Fraser, I don't know if this is a rule or not, but if you have more than 5 units, you need to have either your own garbage company come and pick your trash up, or you need to have a dumpster, right? So you got to know that, because I mean, it's not like it's that expensive. It's like, let's say like $1,000 a year, but that expense adds up, right? So always make sure you kind of calculate that stuff in there, because if you're going from single family to multis, you're used to single families where the tenant does everything. Well, at least how I do it, right? Tenants are responsible for the yard, the snow, the waste. They're responsible for everything, right? I'm just responsible for giving them a nice house, right? They take care of absolutely everything, right? There's no like common areas. There's none of that, where you might have those in a duplex. You might have them in a 4-unit. Not so common in a duplex or a 4-unit, or maybe a 4-unit. I guess it all depends on how the property's set up, what you would do have and what you don't, right? So just kind of remember that when you're running your numbers, to add those extra expenses in there, because a lot of these properties, they're sold on the MLS, right? Smaller stuff like 2-unit, 4 units, whatever, right? And real estate agents, unlike brokers or seasoned people that deal with these multifamily properties regularly, they don't know to add those line items, right? And they might just be like, oh yeah, just leave that out because we make the numbers look better, therefore we can get a higher price. Not that most agents know how to do that. Most agents they're like, oh, well, we'll just go like the price per square foot, or they come up with some crazy number for it based on usually square footage and comps, or I don't even know how to do it. But it's always a crazy number, right? You've all seen them, like $150K a door for a duplex in like Royal Oak, for example, right? People are somehow still paying it, but it doesn't really make sense when you're getting like $1,200 to pay $150 for a unit. But anyway, just kind of keep that in mind, because like I said, most of those properties are listed on the MLS or through normal agents, and they don't know to add those in there, or they don't know to tell you. And if you're looking at it with another real estate agent that specializes in single families, he might not know to tell you hey, you got to add this stuff in there in your calculation to make sure that your numbers, your cash flow numbers, and all this other stuff makes sense and that you're meeting your targets, right? So just another thing to kind of keep in mind is the yard, snow, and waste for smaller properties. Obviously, for bigger stuff, it's a given, right? You're not going to have a guy out there with a shovel shoveling a 100-unit property, right? Like every tenant you give a shovel and they got like their own parking spot, right? You can't do that. That's just like a given on bigger properties. But for smaller stuff, that's kind of not that it's a gray area, but sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. It just depends on the property, the setup, right? And it's infinite, the different setups you can have, right? So anyway, I hope this helped. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll be glad to help out any way I can. Have a good night.